My fiancée went behind my back and invited the one person who ruined my life, my sister, to our wedding. She thought I wouldn't find out. So I called the whole thing off, and trust me, she never saw it coming. I'm Jason, 31 years old. About 6 months ago, I popped the question to my girlfriend, Kate. We'd been together 5 years, and I honestly believed we were stepping into the happiest chapter of our lives. The wedding was supposed to be next month, but things spiraled in a way I never expected. Looking back, I see now just how wrong I was about a lot of things. To really understand how it all fell apart, you need a little backstory. I have a younger sister, Megan. She's 28 now, and we haven't spoken in over 9 years. There's a reason for that. A very good one. Growing up, Megan and I never got along. Not even a little. Our parents tried their best to force that picture-perfect sibling bond, but all we ever did was argue and butt heads. She was always trying to one-up me. Everything I did, she had to do better, or at least try. I still remember the moment that set the tone for our entire relationship. I was 10, she was 7. I just won a spelling bee at school, and our parents took us out for ice cream to celebrate. You'd think a sibling would be happy for me, right? Not Megan. She threw a full-blown fit right there in the middle of the shop. Screaming that it wasn't fair, that she could spell better than me, demanding our parents quiz her on the spot. It turned a nice moment into something painfully awkward. And that was just the start. As we got older, things only got worse. Her behavior didn't just stay petty, it turned manipulative. If I scored high on a test, she'd study like crazy until she got the same grade. When I was 12 and won a local art contest, our folks took us out to dinner to celebrate. And again, same story. Megan lost it at the restaurant, yelling that her art was better and insisting she show everyone her sketches right then and there. What should have been a special night turned into another disaster. That wasn't a one-time thing, it was our entire childhood in a nutshell. Every interest I had, she suddenly had too. When I joined the basketball team, she just had to join as well. If I liked a girl in high school, she'd either befriend her overnight or flirt with her just to mess with me. I'm not exaggerating, it was relentless. Home didn't feel safe or relaxing. It felt like I was living in some twisted competition 24/7. Our parents tried everything to get us to see eye to eye. They even put us in family therapy when I was 16 and Megan was 13. But she just sat there, arms folded, stone-faced while the therapist tried to get her to talk. Eventually, even the therapist gave up. Told my parents there wasn't much they could do if Megan wasn't willing to cooperate. And things didn't just stay bad, they escalated. By our early 20s, things reached a breaking point. I had just graduated college and landed what I considered a dream job at a top-tier marketing firm. This was the kind of opportunity people pray for: great salary, solid benefits, and the chance to be part of campaigns that could really make an impact. I'd worked my tail off to get there, and finally, it felt like all that effort had paid off. Megan, on the other hand, was still in college, barely hanging on. She'd switched majors 4 times, was teetering on the edge of academic probation, and couldn't seem to find her footing. So when I shared the news of my new job at a family dinner, I expected a basic, congrats, at the very least. Instead, Megan exploded. Her face twisted up, and she just started screaming, accusing me of showing off, stealing the spotlight. "Why do you always have to be the golden child?" she snapped. "Why can't you fail just once so someone else can have a chance?" Her words hit hard. But what really stuck with me was the look in her eyes, pure venom. A mix of resentment and bitterness I'd never seen so clearly before. My parents tried to step in, tried to comfort her, telling her she still had time to find her path. That my success didn't take anything away from her. But Megan wasn't hearing any of it. She stormed off, slamming the door behind her so hard it knocked a picture off the wall. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. She was venting, saying things like, "He's not gonna keep rubbing this in my face. I'll make sure he gets knocked down a peg. At the time, I brushed it off as another one of her dramatic outbursts. We'd had plenty of those over the years. I figured she'd cool down eventually. I couldn't have been more wrong. Just a few days before I was supposed to start the job, I got an email from the firm's HR department. They'd suddenly decided to do a background check based on some concerning materials they'd received. Someone had sent them forged emails and screenshots from fake social media accounts, all supposedly tied to me. The content was full of hateful, discriminatory language. Completely made up. It painted me as someone completely unfit for the job. I was blindsided. Crushed. And then HR dropped the hammer, they were rescinding the offer. Just like that, the dream job was gone. I didn't need long to figure out who was behind it. Megan was the only one who knew me well enough to fake that kind of personal content. When I confronted her, she gave me this cold, smug smile and acted like I was overreacting. But when I wouldn't back down, she finally cracked. "Maybe now you know how it feels," she hissed. "You've always been the favorite. Everyone loves you. It's about time you failed." I didn't know what to say. My own sister had taken a sledgehammer to my future, on purpose. Out of nothing but spite. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was calculated. Vicious. And then, in a twisted moment of pride, she admitted it all. Said she made the accounts, forged the messages, tanked my career, just to watch me fail. There was satisfaction in her voice. Like she'd finally won some long, sick game. And I'll be honest, I was wrecked. That wasn't just sibling rivalry. That was war. What Megan did wasn't just petty or mean-spirited, it was a deliberate hit job by someone I shared blood with. That day, I told her I never wanted to see her again. No more calls, no more family dinners, no more pretending. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. I ended up crashing on a buddy's couch that night, just trying to wrap my head around everything and figure out how to piece my life back together. In the years that followed, I completely cut her off. No texts, no emails, nothing. My parents still saw her once in a while, but they learned quickly not to bring her name up around me. I wasn't interested in any updates or apologies. Starting over professionally was no cakewalk either. I had to take a lower-paying job just to get my foot back in the door and claw my way up again. But I did it. Eventually, I landed on my feet. Today, I've got a solid job, a circle of close, supportive friends, and up until recently, I had Kate. Meeting Kate 5 years ago felt like finally catching a break. She was everything I hadn't even realized I needed: funny, warm, smart, and incredibly understanding. By our 4th date, I opened up to her about Megan. Everything. The whole ugly history. She listened without judgment, nodded along, and said she understood. That sometimes family ties get tangled beyond repair, and that she respected my decision to cut Megan out of my life. I made one thing absolutely clear: Megan would never be a part of my world again, and definitely not at my wedding. At the time, Kate seemed to get it. She said she did, anyway. But as the wedding planning ramped up, I started noticing little shifts. She started bringing up Megan now and then, making gentle suggestions that maybe it was time to let the past go. Each time, I shut it down. Firmly. The very thought of seeing Megan's face on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life made my stomach churn. That day would turn into a disaster the second she walked in the room. Kate would drop the subject for a while, but I could tell she wasn't happy about my hard line. Then last week, everything came to a head. We were sitting in the living room, going over the final guest list. The names were all laid out across the coffee table. I was dead tired after a long workday, and honestly, the last thing I wanted was to fight about this again. But Kate wasn't letting it go this time. Her tone was soft, like she was trying to ease me into something. "Jason, I really think you should reconsider inviting Megan," she said. "She's your sister. Don't you think it's time to forgive and move on? I clenched my jaw. Heiress line I'd heard before, but for some reason, it hit harder this time. Maybe it was the tiredness, maybe it was the way she looked at me with that hopeful, almost pleading expression. Whatever it was, her words landed differently that night. Kate, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, we've been over this. She can't be at the wedding. You know what she did. Having her there would ruin everything. She sighed, and I could hear the tension creeping in. But it was years ago, she said. People change. Maybe she's not the same person anymore. Maybe she regrets it. That made something rise up in me. Regret? I repeated. She didn't just say something hurtful or borrow my stuff without asking. She wrecked my career. She dragged my name through the mud, on purpose. She knew exactly what she was doing. Kate looked into my eyes, searching for some sign I was softening. I'm not saying what she did was okay, she said. I just think maybe she wants to make it right. I stared at her, stunned. Why are you pushing this so hard? What makes you think she deserves a spot at our wedding? What has she done to earn that? Her face tightened. Because family matters, Jason. I can't imagine cutting someone off forever. That one cut deep. You think this is just me holding a grudge? I shot back. She didn't borrow money and forget to pay me back. She didn't read my diary or post an embarrassing photo online. She tried to destroy me. I felt myself getting more heated. I had to rebuild everything from the ground up because of her. And now you want her sitting in the front row, smiling like nothing happened? Kate shook her head, voice rising. You're being stubborn. You're holding on to something from the past and punishing her for a mistake she made when she was young. That was it. A mistake. I snapped. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to lose that job? To get an email saying they were rescinding my offer because of fake screenshots and lies? That wasn't a mistake, Kate. That was cruelty. She looked away, folding her arms. Maybe she's changed. Maybe she wants to say she's sorry. And maybe I don't care, I said firmly. She made her choices, and I made mine. I told you this was a hard boundary for me. If you can't respect that, maybe we shouldn't be getting married. Her eyes went wide, stunned. I could see the pain setting in, like she'd just been slapped. You're really saying that? Over this? Yes, I answered. Because it's not just about Megan. It's about trust. I told you what I needed, and you kept pushing. You're supposed to be on my side. And instead, you're trying to force me into a situation I've spent years escaping. The room went quiet. Heavy. I could hear the pounding of my own heart like it was echoing in the silence between us. Kate finally whispered, I thought you'd understand. I thought love meant forgiveness. I shook my head slowly. Love also means respect, I said quietly. And I can't respect someone who won't respect my boundaries. She didn't respond. Just sat there, staring at the floor, her eyes glassy and wet. Then, without a word, she stood up and walked out of the room. I was left sitting there alone, staring down at that guest list, the names swimming in and out of focus as my vision blurred with tears I didn't even feel coming. The next morning, everything just felt off. Kate barely said a word to me. And when she did, it was stiff, polite, the kind of tone you use with a stranger, not someone you're about to marry. Honestly, that cold silence hurt more than if we'd just yelled it out. It was like this invisible wall had been built overnight, and neither of us knew how to break through it. I kept trying to convince myself it would pass. We loved each other. We'd weathered plenty of ups and downs before. Surely, this was just another bump in the road. But deep down, I felt something shift, like a crack had formed in the foundation. Trust had been damaged, and once that happens, it's damn hard to fix. About a week later, the whole thing blew up. I came home late from work one night, completely drained. All I wanted was a shower, some food, and maybe a little quiet time. Instead, I walked through the door and saw Kate sitting at the dining table. She looked pale. Hands trembling. The tension in the room was so thick it nearly knocked the breath out of me. My gut told me something was seriously wrong. "What's going on?" I asked, cautious. She looked up at me, her eyes full of guilt. Voice trembling, she whispered, "Jason. I need to tell you something." I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What is this about?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Then she said it, barely above a whisper. I reached out to Megan. At first, I thought I misheard her. My brain just refused to process it. "You what?" I said, louder than I meant to. "I found her on social media a few months ago," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "I've been talking to her. I just wanted to understand what really happened between you two." She paused, then added, "Anne. I invited her to the wedding." It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I couldn't breathe. My ears were ringing. My heart thudded in my chest like a warning siren. "You invited her?" My voice cracked, laced with disbelief. "I'm sorry," she said through sobs. "I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought if she came, maybe you two could finally." "No," I cut in, the anger rising in my throat. "You went behind my back. After everything I told you, you did the one thing I asked you not to." "Jason, please," she begged, the tears falling faster now. "I love you. I wasn't trying to hurt you, I just wanted to help." "Help?" I let out a dry, bitter laugh. "You think this is helping? You knew what she did. You knew what this would do to me. That's not love, Kate. That's control." She reached toward me, but I stepped back, like her touch might burn. "Jason, wait," she said, her voice breaking. "There's more. I thought she'd changed. I really did. But when I spoke to her, I realized I was wrong." She hesitated like she didn't even want to say it out loud. She said, "Oh, you're his new girl? How can you even be with such a loser?" I clenched my fists, my jaw tightening. Of course she hadn't changed. Of course Megan would lash out at someone who approached her with kindness. Kate continued, voice shaking. "That's when it hit me. You were right all along. I messed up. I thought I could fix something I didn't fully understand. I thought I was helping, but all I did was make it worse. I see now how deeply she hurt you. I'm so sorry." Her words hung in the air, but they didn't ease the blow. The betrayal still sat heavy in my chest. "You should have trusted me," I said, quietly but firmly. "You should have listened when I told you what I needed." She buried her face in her hands and sobbed, but I just stood there, frozen. I couldn't comfort her. I couldn't move. I was gutted. The one person I trusted more than anyone had gone behind my back because she thought she knew better than I did. If you can't respect me enough to honor my boundaries, then what do we even have left? I asked, the words tasting like heartbreak. "Don't say that," she cried. "Please. We can fix this." I shook my head, the pain unbearable. "No, Kate. You broke my trust. And without trust, there's nothing left to fix." Then I turned and walked away. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was dragging the weight of everything we'd built behind me. The air between us didn't just feel tense, it felt final. Like a door had closed, and neither of us had the key anymore. I knew it was over. And God, it hurt more than I could ever explain. That night, I stayed in the guest room. I lay there staring at the ceiling, mind racing, every word from our fight echoing in my head. No sleep. Just this endless storm of betrayal, hurt, and confusion. When the morning light crept in, the silence in our apartment felt like a scream. I heard Kate moving around outside, soft footsteps, zippers, drawers. I didn't need to ask. I knew what was happening. She was packing up. And once again, because of Megan, my life was falling apart. When she finally walked into the hallway, suitcase in hand, we locked eyes. Her face was streaked with tears, but there was something steady in her gaze too, like she'd made her peace. "Are you sure this is what you want, Jason?" she asked, barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard. My throat ached. "No, Kate. This isn't what I want. But it's what your choices left me with." She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," I said, voice cracking despite everything. But that didn't erase what she'd done. We stood there in silence, the kind that says everything without a word. The air between us felt thick, like it was carrying the weight of everything we never said. Then she turned, walked out the door, and just like that, she was gone. The sound of the door shutting behind her hit like a punch to the gut. I wasn't ready for that kind of finality. I collapsed onto the couch, the quiet pressing down on me like the walls themselves were closing in. The silence? It was deafening. The days that followed barely registered. It all blurred together. I started undoing the wedding plans, cancelled the venue, the caterers, the florist, one by one. Each phone call felt like peeling off a piece of something I'd spent so long building. Like tearing down a dream with my own hands. People reacted in all kinds of ways. My friends tried to be there for me, though it was obvious some of them didn't really get it. Kate's family, though. They were furious. Her mom flat out called me a heartless jerk. Said I threw away something beautiful over what she called some sibling nonsense. Her brother, someone I used to consider a friend, sent me this long, bitter message about how I was throwing my life away. I read it once and just stared at the screen, completely numb. But they didn't know the whole story. They had no clue how deep this really went. And right in the middle of all that, my own family jumped in with their opinions. Mom and Dad started calling non-stop, leaving voicemails that swung between begging and guilt-tripping. My mom's voice cracked in every message. "Jason, please," she said, like I was the one breaking everything apart. "This could be our chance to fix things. Don't let this destroy the family," she pleaded. But the truth was, I wasn't the one who broke it. That damage had already been done, by Megan first, and now by Kate. The people who should have had my back, the ones I thought I could trust more than anyone, had crossed lines I couldn't just pretend weren't there. One night, after a rough day at work, I came home and saw an email from Megan. My first instinct was to delete it without opening it. But I paused. Curiosity won out. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." It was long. A wall of words filled with apologies and explanations. She said she'd been in therapy for years, trying to figure out her jealousy and why she'd always resented me. She owned up to everything, admitted what she did was inexcusable, and said she'd changed. She wanted to reconnect, to be my sister again. I read every word, but I didn't feel anything. Just tired. Worn down. Was I supposed to believe that a few therapy sessions could wipe away everything she did? Could it undo the way I lost my dream job because of her? The humiliation. The years I spent trying to rebuild what she shattered. Those scars weren't surface wounds, they were deep. I closed the email and didn't respond. That weekend, I stayed in. No plans, no distractions. Just me and my thoughts, trying to make sense of it all. And no matter how much I tried to let my mind wander, it kept coming back to Kate. I missed her. The way she'd crack up at my dumb jokes. How her eyes would light up when she talked about the things she loved. But something between us had broken, and not just because of Megan. It was about Kate ignoring the boundary I'd been clear about from the beginning. She crossed it, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she did it just to prove a point. I hit the gym, hoping to work the frustration out of my system. Played basketball until I could barely breathe. Lifted until my legs burned. I needed the physical pain to drown out the emotional mess in my head. Afterward, I just sat in my car, dripping sweat, staring out the windshield. Was I being too stubborn? Was all of this worth losing Kate? But every time I thought about reaching out, I remembered that moment, her admitting she went behind my back. The weight in my chest. The betrayal. The cold truth that she chose to ignore my trust. No matter how much love was still there, that wound was raw. It hadn't even started to heal. Tuesday morning rolled around, and I walked into work feeling like a shell of myself. My boss, Nicole, a no-nonsense type, but with a solid heart, noticed right away. She pulled me aside. "You holding up okay?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. I gave her a tired smile. "Trying." She nodded, looked me dead in the eye. "Standing your ground's tough. But sometimes it's the most important thing you'll ever do." That stuck with me. The rest of the day, I got lost in my code. There was something comforting in the logic, in the structure. It gave me something to hold on to while everything else was chaos. By the time I got home, the apartment felt colder than usual. But for the first time in a while, there was a sliver of peace. I knew I'd made the right call. It still hurt like hell, but at least I hadn't folded on what mattered. That night, I finally deleted Megan's email. Didn't need to reread it. I already knew my answer. The days moved forward, even if I felt stuck. Life kept going, but I was standing still. This place, once full of her laughter, her energy, felt empty now. Hollow. Her side of the closet. Bare. The bathroom shelves. Half empty. And I kept catching myself listening for her voice, expecting her to walk around the corner. But she never did. I buried myself in work, chasing distractions like they were oxygen. But no matter how much I piled on, the truth stayed with me. The betrayal. The broken trust. The future I'd imagined, slipping away like sand through my fingers. It followed me everywhere. Then one night, my phone buzzed. It was late. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. "Hey, Mom," I said flatly. "Jason," she said, her voice careful, like she was afraid I might hang up. "Come to dinner this weekend. We need to talk." I let out a breath. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said, my words soaked in exhaustion. "Please," she said, her voice low and pleading. "It matters." And against all the warning bells going off in my head, I said yes. Maybe I was still clinging to the hope that they'd finally get it, that they'd hear me out and really see me for once. But deep down, I knew better. I was probably setting myself up to be let down again. Saturday rolled around, and I made the drive to my parents' place with my stomach twisted in knots. That house used to feel like home. Now it just stirred up a weird, hollow sadness I couldn't shake. As I climbed the steps, I paused at the front door and took a deep breath, bracing myself. My mom opened it with a strange smile and pulled me into a hug. It didn't feel comforting, it felt like desperation. "I'm so glad you came," she said softly. I stepped inside and instantly felt the tension. The air was thick, like something was about to explode. And then I saw her, Megan, sitting at the dining table. Our eyes locked. Hers were wide, like maybe she was sorry. But I didn't feel sympathy. I felt cold, hot, and angry all at once. "What is she doing here?" I snapped, my voice already shaking. "Jason, please," Dad said, looking like he was in pain just saying the words. "We just want to help you find peace." "What is wrong with you?" I said, the anger bubbling over. "You set this up without telling me." It felt like a gut punch. A full-blown ambush. My mom's eyes welled up with tears. We just thought, if you two talked, maybe you could start healing. I clenched my fists. My jaw tightened. You don't get it. You never have. Jason, wait, Megan tried to chime in, her voice shaky. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. But to me, her words were just background noise. Meaningless. I turned to my parents, my voice sharp. You keep trying to fix something that can't be put back together, I said. It's already broken. Dad's voice cracked. We just want our family back. Well, this is your family now, I said, cold and certain. A family where trust doesn't matter. Where betrayal gets brushed aside. I turned toward the door, my heart pounding like a drum. I told you where I stood. If you can't respect that, then I don't know what else to say. And I walked out. I could hear Mom crying as I made my way down the steps. But I didn't turn around. The night air hit me in the face, crisp and sharp, and somehow, I felt clear. Lines had been drawn. I hadn't crossed theirs, and I sure wasn't going to let them cross mine. That night, I sat in my car for a long while before heading home. My phone buzzed over and over, texts from my parents, from Megan, even Kate. Guess they'd told her everything. I didn't answer. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, not anymore. I was done justifying my pain to people who refused to hear it. When I got home, the quiet of the apartment no longer felt like it was swallowing me. For the first time in a while, it actually felt like room to breathe. I was done holding on to relationships that did nothing but hurt. Done trying to force pieces together that clearly didn't fit anymore. Over the next few days, I stayed to myself and did a lot of thinking. I knew I'd set some bridges on fire, and that there was no way to rebuild them, but weirdly, that realization came with a strange sense of peace. I wasn't living under the weight of everyone else's expectations anymore. And I wasn't obligated to forgive someone just because they decided it was time. One night, I decided to reach out to a few friends. They'd been checking in on me, and I figured it was time to stop hiding out. We met up at this cozy little bar downtown, nothing flashy, just low music and good conversation. As I sat there, sipping my drink and laughing along with them, it hit me how much I'd pulled away from the world. My life hadn't ended when the engagement did. Time kept moving. And maybe it was time for me to do the same. Later, as we were heading out, my buddy Eric clapped me on the shoulder. You did the right thing, man, he said. Takes real guts to stand up for yourself. I gave him a small nod and let out a breath. For the first time, I actually believed him. Standing my ground had cost me a lot. But losing myself in the process? That would have been worse. The next morning, I headed out for a walk along the beach. The waves rolled in gently, the sunlight dancing across the water like gold. I breathed in the salty air, filling my lungs. Yeah, there was still hurt. Still loss. But under all that, there was also hope. I was finally free to build a life that made space for my peace. One where boundaries weren't just heard, they were honored. I didn't know what was waiting for me down the road, but for once, that didn't scare me. I'd take it one step at a time. And I'd figure it out. Weeks passed, and life started settling into something that felt steady. I wasn't the same person I was before all this, but I was starting to find my footing again. There was peace in the stillness. Something comforting about just focusing on me for a change. I spent more time with the friends who had stuck around. Real people. People who didn't expect me to be anyone other than myself. We'd hike through the cliffs near the coast, swap stories around a bonfire, or just hang out in quiet moments that reminded me what honest connection felt like. Those friendships were clean. Simple. No hidden strings, no betrayal. And in those spaces, I found the strength to keep going. At work, things were solid. I threw myself into new challenges, took on projects that pushed me to get better. My boss, Carla, noticed. One afternoon after a team meeting, she pulled me aside. "You're doing great, Jason," she said with a smile. "I can tell your focus is back. Keep going." And I plan to. I gave a small nod, a flicker of pride rising in my chest. Her words hit me in a good way, reminding me that after everything I'd been through, I still had drive, I still had fight in me. My past hadn't shattered me, if anything, it had shaped me into someone tougher, someone more grounded. One weekend rolled around, and I made a decision: it was time to clean house, both literally and emotionally. I needed to get rid of the stuff that kept me anchored to what used to be. As I sorted through old drawers and closets, pieces of my life with Kate surfaced. A single earring, a faded movie ticket, a grocery list she never finished writing, her handwriting still so familiar. Each little thing brought back a moment, a snapshot of who we used to be. But instead of getting lost in those memories, I made the choice to let them go, one by one. I put it all in a box, taped it shut, and tucked it away. Letting go didn't mean erasing the past, it meant deciding not to carry its weight anymore. When I was done, the apartment felt lighter. Cleaner. Like I'd finally cleared the air. It started to feel like mine. I moved some furniture around, added a couple of plants, and put up new art on the walls. Just those small touches made the place feel more alive. The whole space started to look like a reflection of who I'd become, not the guy I used to be. One night, while I was making dinner, something I'd picked up and was slowly learning to enjoy, my phone lit up. It was a text from my mom. "We miss you. Please talk to us when you're ready." I stared at that message for a while. The pain from that dinner ambush still stung, and part of me wasn't ready to face them. But deep down, I also knew my parents weren't bad people. They just didn't get how deep the wound went, or why I needed to keep some space to protect myself. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't ready yet, and that was okay. Healing isn't something you rush. A few weeks later, I found myself at a rooftop party downtown, just soaking up the summer air, when I met someone new. Her name was Rachel. She had this laid-back smile and a way of talking that made it feel like we'd known each other forever. We chatted about all kinds of things, books, road trips, and where to find the best barbecue in Texas. Not once did she ask about my past or poke around in places I wasn't ready to go. She just enjoyed being there, in that moment, with me. And honestly, that felt like a breath of fresh air. I didn't have to explain myself or defend my choices. I could just exist. Just be. As the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in purples and oranges, she looked at me and smiled. "Feel like grabbing a milkshake?" she asked. I laughed and said, "Only if you promise there's no karaoke involved." She cracked up, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something warm settle in my chest. It wasn't that rush of falling head over heels. It was gentler than that. It was the quiet comfort of realizing that maybe, just maybe, starting over wasn't out of reach. Later that night, when I stepped back into my apartment, something hit me. I wasn't completely healed. Not yet. The pain from Megan's betrayal and the broken trust with Kate hadn't vanished, they were still there, like old scars. But those scars didn't control me. They were just part of my journey. I was stronger now. Clearer on what I needed, and what I wouldn't compromise on anymore. I stood by the window and looked out over the Austin skyline. The city kept moving, and so did I. The road ahead wasn't exactly clear, but I wasn't scared of it anymore. I had my boundaries. I had self-respect. And for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly who I was. Sometimes, standing firm means losing people you care about. But it can also mean finally finding your true self. And for me, that was a trade I was ready to make.